Victoria 3 is here, 12 whole years after its predecessor, and I don't know about you guys, but I am very excited for this game and future support from Paradox. I do love EU4, but after 5,000 some hours, you do get sick of anything. So today, we're going to do a vanilla run-through in Victoria, seeing how the AI manages itself and see what kind of shortfalls we can abuse in future videos. If you see something that you think would be fun to change, or if you're watching this after the game's release and a mod that you think would be fun to check out, make sure to leave it in the comments below the video. I am pushing for 20,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel. And if you want early access to every single video that comes out on this channel, make sure to check out the Patreon in the description below as well. Well, lads and lasses, it is about that time. Highly contentious, but I think this game is pretty good. Either way, we're going to load in and we are going to observe, because that is what we do here on Chewbert. Now, this first run through of the game, I'm actually going to change nothing. This is going to be a completely vanilla run through, because on release, if you guys haven't played it yet, it's going to look kind of weird to you. And how do we change stuff if we don't even understand how stuff looks normally, right? So just like we always do, we hit that speed 5 and we unpause the game. We have a very young United States, only about 60 years old, with a Mexico that looks roughly like Mexico today, actually. Most of California and all that stuff. Canada is a bunch of different trade companies. Alaska is a Russian territory. Beautiful Hawaii is independent. But guys, this game is gorgeous. Just look at that volcano. How cool is that? Don't have anything like that in EU4. Europe is looking very European. No major wars yet, of course. We have the very beefy Austria under none other than the Chin themselves, the von Habsburgs. We have King Louis-Philippe d'Orléans over here in France. And of course, King William of Hanover, father of the illustrious Queen Victoria. Hence why they start with a personal union over Hanover. Russia with Tsar Nikolai Romanov is absolutely massive with a massive military, the number 3 great power. The great Qing in China with Joseon in Korea, as well as the Japanese shogunate across the channel there. The East India Company controls most of what we know as the Raj, or India. And of course, there is Africa, the untamed wilderness, with many different decentralized nations. They are not uncivilized nations. That is offensive. These guys are decentralized. In South America, we have Brazil in what I think might be a civil war with Graupada and this Paratini. But other than that, we've got some decentralized nations. And then in the north, we've got a couple of breakaway states from Spain in New Granada, Venezuela, Ecuador, Peru, and Bolivia. Of course, Australia, still a colony at this time, with New Zealand still being invested into a bit by the colonial powers. The spice must flow from the Dutch East Indies. Now, Texas just white peaced with Mexico in their war for independence, so it looks like Texas is likely to get peacefully integrated with the United States. They have this journal system now, which is basically like the mission system. It's kind of like the old mission system from EU4 for those of you who have played for a long time. But you can see here, this Texan statehood mission requires relations with Texas and the US to be greater than 20. And when they do, Texas will get the option to decide whether they accept US statehood, which the AI will always choose yes. Brazil has won on both fronts in their little civil war, so now they can finally start to recover from that. Now we're talking. We've got the Ruskies attacking Circassia because they want to make them a dominion, but it looks like the Ottomans have intervened. So we've got some war on our hands. Little Circassia will get overrun very quickly, but these borders down here, I'm not so sure what to really expect here. It does look like the Russians have pushed a bit into Turkey, but we'll see how that goes. You guys know how it went for them the last time they fought over here in the Caucasus, right? Erzurum, I think is what it's called. Lots of Ruskies died over here in the First World War, but yeah, it looks like they're pushing into the Ottomans pretty well. You can see here that the Ottomans' defense is pretty low compared to the offense of the Russians, so yeah, they're pushing pretty good. Oh, no, no, no. It looks like the Russians said, all right, Ottoman, if you want to get involved, we're going to take Thrace. Now, the way that this works is, despite the fact that the Ottomans are losing handedly, they have lots of their land occupied, they're not going to be able to take Eastern Thrace unless they occupy it, right? If the enemy does not have the war goal, then their war support cannot go below 0. They're locked at 0. It's a little clunky, and I think they're going to end up reworking it eventually, but it does work for the most part. However, since the Russians are the aggressor and they don't have any war goals towards them, they will gradually lose war support, and it will trend towards -100. And at -100, you have peace enforced on you. In this case, it would be a white peace enforced on the Russians. So the worst case scenario, the Russians lose a bunch of men for nothing. Best case scenario, they lose a bunch of men and take Thrace, which is, you know, pretty cool. And Constantinople has been taken. And there it is, folks. Eastern Thrace, a state in Russia. All right, man. Let's see if they can hold on to it, though. Now, I didn't mention this in the intro, but we have a non-unified Italy, with obviously Austria controlling a very large portion up here in what I think is the Po Valley or something like that. Lombardy, is this the Po Valley? Something like that. I think the Po Valley's in this area. I might be wrong. Either way. And of course, Germany is not unified, but Prussia is, they're working towards that. Now, Prussia, once they research nationalism, which they have, they will be able to start confederating with other North German tags. So people like Hanover, now that they're independent, as well as like Lippe and Hesse-Kassel, Anhalt, they will all join them, and they will eventually form the North German Federation. Now, that's not guaranteed, of course. It's the AI. The AI is derpy. It's a paradox game. I don't know what you would expect. But at that point, then they can form Germany if they want to, but they need to make sure they keep Bavaria and like Baden and Württemberg in them all in their good graces. They also have to compete with Austria because at this time, Austria has decided that they are the leader of the German world, right? You can see this right here in the nation formation under cultures, that there is one nation that supports Austria as the leader of the German world and one nation that supports Prussia. Now, this is a subject, so it's kind of cheating, but either way, they will eventually probably fight a war, and one of them will be decided as the victor, and then that victor can go on to form Germany if they so decide to. I didn't mention this at the beginning because there's so much information to take in just at the first glance, but you can see here Great Britain is doing well with France in the number 2 spot. But then you've got Russia, Austria, Prussia, the US in 6th place with Spain. And after that, it just kind of drops off and nobody has any prestige or any GDP for that matter. The British GDP is 68 million, whereas somebody like Bavaria is almost 5 million. And at the end of the day, this graph going up is honestly kind of the key to winning the game. As long as you can continue to grow your economy to outscale your enemies, you will generally perform well. We can see that the US over here is slowly getting all of these native territories incorporated into their lands, and as are the Mexicans. So only a matter of time now that the border between Mexico and the United States is growing, there's going to be some conflict. Now it looks like Prussia is making a play to conquer Brunswick over here, and Austria has intervened on the side of Brunswick. Definitely looks like more people are sympathetic to Brunswick than the Prussians. So now that Austria is involved, you can see what they could do would be say, hey, since Austria wants to join, how about we take Bohemia, right? They could do that. They could also just take war reps from them. They could also push this guy here, which would allow them to form Germany diplomatically. Now, I don't know how the AI manages this, so I guess we're just going to have to wait and see. If they wanted to, they could back down, but that would give up war reparations to Brunswick, as well as humiliating Prussia, which will lower their prestige. So they're probably going to go to war, but it looks like they're actually going to take land from Hanover as well, who has decided to join on the side of the Brunswickians. So the Prussians quickly occupied Brunswick and basically beat them into a pulp and said, hey, surrender now. And they did, which is cool, but now they are stuck in the war with these other two guys to enforce the rest of their demands. So if they can occupy and take Hanover's portion of Brunswick, they can do that. But they're going to have to convince Austria as well as Hanover that they deserve that because these guys are negotiating participants. And now that Hanover's portion of Brunswick has also been conquered, it looks like it is just 1v1 over here with definitely a superior edge on the Prussian military side. The funny part is that Prussia here is actually fighting for a white peace with these guys. You can't add war goals after the war has begun. That's another thing that I think they'll probably end up reworking later on, but right now, you have to just deal with whatever the war was declared for. So these guys are going to fight a bloody war for a white peace. Very funny. There's been quite a bit of back and forth. Prussia actually had lost land all the way up into here, but it looks like now they are pushing the Austrians back and they can enforce a white peace. So I assume that they will as soon as they get the opportunity. If you were playing right now, you could propose this white peace and they would accept it. So that's how that works. Now, this is one of the funnier things that I've been seeing pretty consistently in this game, is that the AI United States will colonize the decentralized lands over here in whatever this is. What is this? Alberta. And so they'll get this ugly little border up here. And sometimes they actually even colonize this Iron Confederacy. And then they have this awesome little hook going into Canada. To be honest with you, I have about 40 hours in so far, just pre-release stuff, because Paradox was really cool and they gave me the game early. The AI for the United States is kind of retarded. And Prussia, fanning that Prussian militarism, is going to conquer Hesse and Bremen with a couple of miners going for them. We'll see. They might get somebody to back them up as well. Imagine my surprise, Austria coming back literally within weeks of piecing them out from their other war, asking for another beating. This time it looks like Prussia is going to get a little too big for their britches and demand some land over here in Austria proper. Oh, this is a major yikes. The East India Company has had a peasant revolt take a look at this mess. There's so many different little borders, and I don't know if they're going to be strong at all. To be honest with you, probably not. But geez, oh Pete, that's a lot of little fronts to fight on. Well, I'll be damned. Prussia capitulated Austria and took Tyrol and South Tyrol. Also, how about this one over here? We've got an Egypt who is absolutely trashing the Ottomans at the moment. You may actually be able to call them the sick man of Europe. Now, I'm not sure this is quite how Texas joined the Union, but it looks like in this timeline that might be what happens. The United States has declared a diplomatic play in Texas to annex them, and Mexico backed them up. Good guy Mexico wanting to help out their friends over there in Texas. Looks like they're actually going to have to return Utah, Arizona, Nevada, and California all to the United States. Notably, you'll see Oklahoma and Colorado are not in there. Which would be hilarious because then these borders would be atrocious. So, you know, we'll see how it goes. There's a lot of border gore with the AI right now in this release patch. I should say I do have a pre-release patch, so I don't think that this is what you guys are going to be playing on in the day one. I probably would have said that in the intro. Yeah, it definitely looks like Mexico is going to be capitulated here in the Mexican-American War for protecting Texas independence, I guess. Ah, this is perfect. This is the perfect Mexican-American border. Poor Isabella over here was trying to help out their friend in Morocco, defending them because France wanted a treaty port, but instead they just, you know, get absolutely steamrolled by the French. So, yeah, maybe it's not always a good idea to be a good friend. Poor Egypt got tired of beating up on the Ottomans, so decided to beat up on itself. Revolutionary Egypt on the way. Yo, peep these natives here in the south of Australia with a standard of living of 2.8 and a gross domestic product of their entire country of 2,760 British pounds per year. But surprisingly for a quote-unquote civilized nation, the Ionian Islands over here not looking too good either, with a GDP just a little bit over double what theirs are, but it looks like it used to be higher, but they've fallen upon hard times, so to speak. Oh honey, it's time for your once every 5 years ass whooping. We'll see though, it does look like the Ottomans are actually the initiator, but they're uncertain, so who knows, man. I have so much stuff to learn about how the AI works in this game. Like EU4, I have 5.5 thousand hours in the game. It's like, I know how the game works, right? Victoria, 40 hours. So it's like, I have no idea what's going on most of the time. I try to kind of figure out what I think will happen based on my experience up to this point, but yeah, there's still a lot of question marks that I have no idea what the answer to is. Yet another peasant revolt over here for the East India Company. They were dispatched pretty quickly in the previous one, so I assume that's just going to be the same thing this time as well. Very cool. Egypt has unlocked nationalism. It also appears that they have unlocked bankruptcy, so they're going to lose this war. Another war in Prussia to unify North Germany, another time that somebody gets involved that probably shouldn't get involved, and now Russia is taking massive casualties against the Prussians. Just like imagine sending 250,000 men off to die in a war that has literally nothing to do with your country. They wanted to annex Hamburg, so they sent 213,000 men to go die. Okay, man. So they did end up white piecing, which is crazy. I was actually hoping to show you guys the numbers. Russia had like 1 million casualties. Something like 500,000 men died for reasons, you know. I guess a white piece is a overall win for Germany, I suppose. Russia definitely got put in their place. You can see they've still got a very high population, but their population growth is actually going down quite a bit. Standard of living, not so good in the Russian lands right now. But it doesn't matter because Russia's got their place in the sun over here in the deserts off the coast of Africa. And yes, we do have an early colonial game with the US getting in a little bit of it, with Great Britain over here in Senegal, France over here in a couple of places. But you know I gotta point it out when we got the homies. My goodness, the Prussian AI is very aggressive right now, wanting to conquer Hanover, Elba, and Moravia, with Hanover being supported by the French and the Austrians. I don't think they're gonna win this one. They initiated and they're fearful, so yeah, they may end up backing down. Probably foolish, but yeah, looks like they decided to go forward with it. Yeah, this coalition is taking some losses, but boy, they've got some occupations going on here. Liberating Bremen, Saxe-Weimar, and Hesse. Ouch. And just like that, there they go. Borders slightly smaller than they were a minute ago. Guys, the East India Company is a presidential dictatorship ran by the landowners. It looks like they had an aristocratic revolt and I missed it. They have a very solid GDP, actually. The East India Company breaking free from Great Britain, and they're the number 4 great power, with a GDP of almost double the entirety of Russia and the United States. That is wild. Even crazier yet, they have an alliance with the Great Qing and a defensive pact with Persia. This is very cool. I have not seen this before, and I'm really happy I got to. Ah yes, New South Wales, aka the part of Australia that determines what the rest of Australia is doing, right? And apparently the North Island. So you guys know Prussia, looks like their flag is broken, but do you know about radical Prussia? Constitutional monarchy, my goodness. I think they're probably gonna win considering how many battalions they have, but yeah, we'll see how that goes. Something that's probably going to need to be taken a look at here is people being able to peace out. These states over here are completely devastated, 100%, and these guys have been at war for like 10 years, fully occupied with nothing going on. We can see in this war that nobody is going to get any of their peace deals. They're being offered a white peace, but they still feel like they can win, apparently. So, yeah, that's pretty weird. Poor Portugal, though. 100% devastation for their entirety of their homeland. And it does indeed look like the radical Prussians are going to enforce their government on the people of Prussia. So out with the von Hohenzollerns, in with the von Rhön. And apparently, we've also got a little something going on over on the British Isles with Emperor James of Galloway trying to overthrow young Victoria. Her Majesty's government is being contested. And looking at the numbers, unless somebody intervenes, it looks like the revolutionaries are actually going to win. So it appears that this constitutional empire is a bit different than the one that I was thinking it was. But yeah, apparently these communists that have overthrown the government are not very popular with the rest of the world. 320 infamy, which, yes, it is a lot. But it does appear that they kept the dominions and protectorates of the British Isles, so that's still a thing. I was thinking they might break free, but they didn't this time around. Oh God, it's happening. And it's way, way worse than it was in real life. We have Absalom Peabody over here leading the Confederate States. Oh my gosh, this is going to be bad for them. Evander Beauregard fighting off them. The majority of the development of the United States is in this vicinity. Washington is quite surrounded. I don't think they're going to be able to defend that. Also, the Confederate capital is in Philadelphia, which is hilarious. Also, this right here is a bug that I have seen whenever nations don't have any armies to raise. They have revolts and then they just sit there because this is like their local armies and they can't push with these lines. So these guys will sit like this until the end of the game. And I don't think anybody can intervene. So it's kind of a weird little bug. Hopefully that gets resolved on launch. So it looks like Prussia is going in for a little bit more conquest. This time it's pretty much guaranteed they're going to win. And I didn't even realize that the war was already over. These guys are independent. They're completely independent. I was thinking there was going to be a civil war. I don't know, man. Okay, so we now have a Confederate States and a United States. I told you, the border war in North America is usually terrible from my experience. This is no exception. So apparently the Russians wanted a treaty port so bad that they were willing to have millions of men die for it. Looks like they're actually going to lose this war. So hope it was worth it, Russia. Yeah, that's about right. They attacked Qing and then lost and now are paying out big bucks over to the Qing. Oh my God, take a look at that United States GDP after the split. That is pure pain, pure pain. Now in the 1870s, we have a military dictatorship popping out of Austria over here, challenging the von Habsburgs, but probably not going to go so good for them. And then literally within months, Prussia attacks Nassau, who calls in their friend of Hanover, and Prussia is planning to take a lot of land. And Prussia is probably going to roll them because they don't really have any friends to call in. The von Habsburgs may be getting ousted by their own military. And now that our military dictatorship here has annexed the von Habsburgs, Austria, they're going to be pushing towards Russia. And just 2 years later, it looks like France is going through a bit of the same. It seems that the revolution continues to spread. And yeah, it doesn't look like the US is very competent in this patch. The Indian Territory, with what I assume is the Little Dipper on their flag, has broken free and is an independent presidential dictatorship. All right, man. And Scandinavia has formed, but it does look like they're doing a bit of their own revolution. Well, here we go. A constitutional principality of Quebec has popped up out here. Also, Spain feeling pretty rad. And we also have like our 5th or 6th revolution over here. This time they're revolutionaries instead of peasants. And after 100 years, the world looks a little bit different. The Heavenly Kingdom, a Protestant empire, overthrew the Great Qing and exiled them to just a few provinces here in Manchuria as well as northern China. But they are currently undergoing a little bit of a revolution of their own, though looks like they have that under control. Germany certainly did not manage to unite this time, and in fact, I would argue they're a bit more divided than they maybe were in the beginning. We have Austria right next to Austria, who took one state from the Ruskies. The Ottomans managed to hang in there and in fact have basically their start date borders. Bolivia exists and is splitting this Tahuantinsuyo nation over here in South America. And North America is a disgusting mess of revolutions that just will not resolve. I feel pretty confident that this is a bug that will be patched, but don't quote me on that. We have an independent communist Ireland ran by chairwoman Letitia Boyle. No, I'm just kidding. It's Letitia, I know. It's funnier if you pronounce it Letitia. The British Republic has a strange flag, but they do still exist, and the communist Prussians are winning their war against the regular Prussians, the non-communist Prussians, let's say. This Austria down here in Tyrol is actually the Kaiserreich, apparently, where this Austria is the military dictatorship that threw over the Habsburgs at the beginning, making my head hurt. Italy was never united. It was never meant to be this time. And Africa was colonized mostly by France and Britain down here in the south, but there is a couple of United States over here. But before we go over the winners, who comes out on top on this one, I want you guys to leave a comment below and let me know, who do you think is the number 1, 2, and 3 great powers looking at the map right now? I'll give you a second. We have Austria in number 1 with 137 million GDP, followed by the Confederate States of America in the number 2 slot with almost 200,000 GDP, which is in fact the highest GDP in the world. The East India Trading Company came out in the 3rd spot, hilarious. So 2 of these nations did not exist in the start date, and this one is a revolutionary state. Britain is in the 4th spot with Russia in the 5th, France, the communist Prussians, Spain, the actual Prussians. My God, look at that GDP map. These poor guys can't catch a break. They were up all the way to 200,000 before, before disaster struck. The Netherlands, and rounding out the great powers is the 2 Sicilies. And the weakest GDP in the world goes to Uruguay with $372 dues per year. I don't know how that works. I don't know how you live there, but at least they can read. But guys, if you enjoyed that and you want to see more Victoria on the channel, make sure you leave a like on the video and subscribe for more, because we're going to be covering Victoria as long as there's a demand for it. I want to make sure I'm meeting that demand for you guys. As I said in the intro, I'm really hoping to get to 20,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so if you could help me out and subscribe to the channel, it would mean a lot to me. If you want early access to videos like this in the future, make sure you check out my Patreon, where as little as $5 a month, you'll get early access to every single video that comes out on the channel. If you want to join my community Discord, I have a subreddit and a Twitter. Those things are all linked in the description below with my Patreon. And that is all I've got for you for today. So till next time, stay chill.